Let's talk about one of the most basic human experiences, pain. But forget thinking of it as some kind of punishment. We're going to look at it for what it really is, a super sophisticated, high-tech, and absolutely critical emergency alert system, one that's been fine-tuned for millions of years just to keep us alive. Oh, you know the feeling, right? We've all been there. That horrible moment of impact, that split second of stunned silence, and then, boom, an absolute explosion of sensation. It's a feeling every single one of us knows, and it's the perfect place for us to start our journey today. Because that's exactly what's happening. That feeling isn't just happening in your toe. No way. It's an incredibly urgent message, a mix of electrical and chemical signals that's literally rocketing from that point of injury all the way up to your brain's command center. So, you ready? Let's dive in. We're going to trace that signal every step of the way, from that first ouch to the incredibly complex way your brain figures out what it all means. Okay, so here's the roadmap for this signal's crazy journey. It always follows a pretty clear path. First, you've got the injury. That immediately activates special sensors. From there, the signal zips to your spinal cord, and finally, it lands in the brain to be interpreted. It's a simple but elegant four-step process, and we're going to break it down. So let's start right where all the action begins, with the very first spark of that pain signal. The moment you stub your toe, something incredible happens at a microscopic level. The damaged cells actually burst open and release this whole cocktail of chemicals. You can think of them as the first responders rushing to the scene. And it's these chemicals that act like a key, unlocking your body's entire pain alarm system. And what is that alarm? Well, it's a specialized nerve ending called a nociceptor. You have millions of these things all over your body. They're your frontline security guards, the literal motion sensors for your nervous system, and their one and only job is to detect anything that could potentially harm you. Once that nociceptor is triggered, the message is officially on its way. It's now speeding along the body's own personal superhighway of nerves, headed straight for the central nervous system. But get this highway has two different lanes, and there's a brilliant reason why. The fast lane is made of something called A-delta fibers. They carry that first sharp, youch message that gets your attention immediately. But then comes the slow lane, the C fibers, which deliver that lingering, dull, throbbing ache that follows. This two-wave system is genius. It makes you react instantly, but it also makes sure you remember to protect that injury long after it happened. The signal's first major stop is right here, in the spinal cord. Think of it like a local dispatch center. It's so incredibly efficient that it can trigger an immediate reflex. That's why you pull your foot back before your brain has even fully processed what just happened. Now, for the signal to keep going to the brain, it has to jump this tiny little gap between nerve cells. And to make that leap, it releases chemical messengers, neurotransmitters. The two big ones for pain are glutamate and substance P. They're basically the secret password that confirms the message is urgent and unlocks the gate for it to continue its journey up. Okay, let's head to the final destination to see how this all comes together. The signal has finally arrived at Central Command, the brain's control room. This is where that raw data gets transformed into the experience of pain. You know, the message doesn't just arrive at one single pain center. As you can see, it gets routed through a whole network of different regions, and each one has a very specific job to do. The first two critical stops are the thalamus and the somatosensory cortex. First, the signal slams into the thalamus. This is the brain's grand central relay station. It sorts the message and forwards it on. A key destination is the somatosensory cortex. This part is the brain's map maker. It has a super detailed map of your entire body, and its job is to pinpoint the exact location, telling you, hey, the pain is coming from your right big toe. But the brain's job is far from over. It doesn't just register where it hurts, it decides how you feel about it and what you're going to do next. This is where other areas like the limbic system and these things called descending pathways come into play. And this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. The limbic system is your brain's emotion center. It's what attaches feelings like frustration or fear or anxiety to that physical sensation. But at the same time, your brain has its own built-in pain management system. These descending pathways work like a volume control knob, sending signals back down the spinal cord to release natural painkillers and try to dampen the alarm. So we've followed this signal from a simple stubbed toe all the way up into the complex control rooms of the brain. But let's just pull back for a second and ask the most important question of all. Why? Why did evolution bother to build this incredibly intricate system? Well, to put it simply, pain is our most brutally honest teacher and our most vigilant protector. It's the system that teaches a child not to touch a hot stove twice. It drives that reflex to snatch our hand away from something sharp. And it's that nagging ache that forces us to rest an injury so it can actually heal. Without pain, we just wouldn't survive for very long. But of course, this system isn't perfect, and when it malfunctions, it can lead to some absolutely devastating conditions. Chronic pain is like a fire alarm that gets stuck ringing long after the danger is gone. Neuropathic pain is when the wiring itself gets damaged and starts sending out false alarms. And then there's phantom limb pain, which is maybe the most mysterious of all, a real sensation being generated entirely by the nervous system itself. And this really brings us to our final thought. We've seen that pain is this brilliant and necessary system designed to protect us. But it leaves us with one of the biggest challenges in all of modern medicine. If pain is a biological alarm, what happens to us, to our brains, and to our lives when it just never, ever shuts off?